Hi, I'm Loli, and I'm so glad you are here. Today I will be sharing with you 3 beautiful spring DIYs that can also be used for Easter. These are easy to make and quite inexpensive using Dollar Tree products. If you enjoy these, don't forget to subscribe, comment, share, and like. And here we go with the first inspiration. For this project, I'm using one of these canvases that I got from Dollar Tree and a pizza pen. And I'm going to remove all the staples that come in the back of that canvas sign. I'm going to completely remove the canvas so I can use it for my project. I will be using both things, the frame and the canvas. First, I took this Concord grape from Apple Barrel and I painted my frame with it. Then I took Lilac Mist from Apple Barrel and I'm going to use it to dry brush on the entire frame to give this a little bit more dimension and give it a more rustic look as well. And this is what I ended up with. I love that effect. Look how cute that is. So once that paint dry, I'm going to take my frame and we're going to add it to the canvas. And I'm going to use some hot glue to attach it together. So now we're going to be doing a reverse canvas. Then I'm going to use my little healing mat from Dollar Tree and my X-Acto knife, and I'm going to remove all that excess canvas from the outside of the frame. Just be very careful doing this step that you do not cut that MDF board that this frame is made of. Then I painted the pizza pan with chiffon cream from Rust-Oleum. I ended up giving it a total of 3 coats. Then I'm going to add this frame to the pizza pan. And I allow the edges to make marks onto the paint so I knew exactly where to add my glue. So I just added my glue onto those places that the frame will be touching the pizza pan, and I repositioned it in place and held it there until it was completely set. Now I'm taking some of this rope from Dollar Tree and I'm going to measure how much I'll need to go around the entire pizza pan. I'm going to burn off the fuzzies so I don't have to do it later. Then I'm going to start gluing this onto the pan, starting at the very top, making sure that my ends are very flat once I cut that rope. And I'm going to add hot glue all along and add this rope to the entire border of the pizza pan. Now that I got to the top, I'm just going to remove this tape from the edge of the rope. And now we're going to cut that little excess that we have so we have a nice flush finish here. Just make sure to add a little bit of hot glue on the inside of that rope, hold it together in place, and then add hot glue in the entire piece, including that other piece that was opposite, and glue it in place. Now I'm taking some of this ribbon that I got from Dollar Tree. This is part of the B collection that they have. And I'm going to create a 2-loop bow using this. So if you see right here, I'm just looping the ribbon and meandering in different directions, making sure there that my tails are the length that I want them. And then I'm just going to crisscross into one end. Then I'm going to cross it under that loop that I just made. And I'm going to bring it over to create another loop. And I'm going to do the same thing going on the opposite way. And this is going to allow me to have 2 loops in each side, and the tails will remain opposite to each other. Once I'm happy with the length of my tail, I'm going to cut that excess ribbon off. And I'm just going to gather the middle, just cushion it and walking my fingers through until they have a nice cinch edge and that my loops look nice and neat as well. Then I did the same thing with another ribbon, but I'm just going to, do the meandering only once to create 1 loop and 2 tails. 1 loops at the top and the tails. Then I'm going to add both of these ribbons, both of these bows together. I'm just going to tie them in place using some jute cord. Now I'm just going to cut that excess piece of ribbon off that tail, making sure that both tails are nice and even. And I'm going to use that piece that I cut off to create a little piece to cover that middle jute. So I just rolled it onto each other, making sure that the edges of the ribbon are inside right to the center. And since this is wire ribbon, it was quite easy. And then I'm just going to wrap that around that bow and stick it using some hot glue. Here I'm remeasuring to make sure that that's the perfect size, and it is. So I'm going to put that bow to the side, and I'm going to take some of these florals that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm just removing the little pieces, as you see there, of the stems, and I'm going to glue them to the top of my wood round, or my pizza pan round in this case. And I'm gluing actually two pieces on each side using some hot glue. Now it's time to attach the bow to the top, so I'm just going to do that using a generous amount of hot glue. The center of the bow looked kind of bare, so I decided to add this flower to the center. I cut off the little piece that the stem goes in, and then I added some hot glue to that bottom piece and glued it to the flower so it wouldn't fall apart. I decided to use this flower because I thought it looked just like the one in the pictures. I had some of this leftover fern that I used for different projects, and I'm going to add it in between the florals just to break up all the purple and make this look fuller. I added 3 leaves of fern to both sides. My friends, if you enjoyed this video so far, don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up. And if you're so inclined, please make sure that you subscribe and hit the notification bell so YouTube notifies you each time that I upload a new video. All these things are free and they mean the world to me. So apparently I couldn't wait to put the hanger on. So I took this beaded garland from Dollar Tree and I painted a section using this Mystic Like Leg, yes, from Apple Barrel. And I'm going to paint my beads using that and a chip brush. Then I cut off the section that I needed. I put a knot on each side of the jute cords. And then I'm going to use that to add to my pizza pan. I just added my jute cord, as you see right there, added some more hot glue on there, and hot glue and this don't like each other, hot glue and metal. So I took some masking tape and added it at the top of my hot glue as my hot glue was still hot, and this creates a lot stronger bond between the two materials. And now we're back to the fern. So I'm going to add 2 more pieces of fern on each side on here. I just kept showing this to my husband, and he was like, what's up with all the purple? So I said, you know what, we got to break it up a little bit more. So I added some more of that fern just to, take away a little bit from all that purple. And I did the same exact thing with the other side. This is looking so cute, but I needed more. So I'm going to add another shade of purple by using these flowers that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to add 1 little speck in between the ferns there just to break that up a little bit more and give this even more texture. I love how this piece turned out. Leave me a comment and let me know how you like it. So let's head on over to the next inspiration. For this one, I'm using one of these wood rounds from Dollar Tree. And the first thing that I'm going to do is remove that hanger off of it and remove that tag as well. And I'm painting it with 2 coats of my Rack & Decker paint and primer mixed with some plaster of Paris. I took one of these chunky pieces from Dollar Tree and I painted it using the same paint. This is brand new this year from Dollar Tree. And this is how they're looking so far. So here, guys, I was supposed to be decoupaging my bunny first, but for some reason I decided that I needed to glue these 2 pieces together. So I glued them with a combination of hot glue and wood glue. But, that's not going to be taken apart so I can do my decoupaging first. But I just wanted to let you know that, yes, we get very excited, our crafters out here too, and make mistakes. So, be graceful with yourself. All right, so I took it apart, and here I'm going to add some Mod Podge to the front of my bunny. I'm going to make sure that I do it's a thin coat, but not like that's going to dry too quickly, because I am going to be adding that tissue paper that I got from Dollar Tree onto the front of my bunny, but I don't want it to be soaking wet so it will wrinkle a lot. I want it to be tacky so I'm able to smooth it on and everything molds nicely to the surface. I start tacking it down from the bottom and I keep working my way up, making sure that everything is nice and smooth as I'm going along. And I'm also paying close attention to all the edges to make sure that that is also adhered very nicely. Then I'm coming back in using a bowl of saran wrap, just rubbing it around and removing any wrinkles that did form while I was putting it in. Then I'm just removing some of that excess tissue paper, just using my scissors. And then I'm going to come in and add a layer of Mod Podge on the top of my bunny to make sure that it's nicely protective and adhere as well. And once that dries, I'm going to take my nail file and file away all the paper that is left on the edges. And this is how my bunny is looking so far. Now we're going to go ahead and adhere it back onto that round. I'm going to use the same combination of wood glue and hot glue. And I made sure to wipe off any excess glue that oozed from the sides. And look how cute this is turning out. Then I'm going to use some of this greenery that I got from Dollar Tree. So the first thing that I did was go ahead and remove some of the pieces off of it. And I'm going to glue it on different sections in the front of the bunny. So I'm just trying to space them out. Some pieces I glued whole and some pieces I cut in half and turned into 2 separate little bushes to give some variety and texture to this piece. So I'm just going to glue the base of each one of the pieces down onto the front of the wood round. Here you'll see in a second how I cut one of the pieces in half. So here I'm just waiting for that hot glue to dry. And in the meantime, I'm cutting this piece onto 2 separate little plants. So I'm just using the hot glue that's already oozing from the one that I have on there and putting a piece towards the side of it. And then I'm going to continue doing this until the entire front of the bunny has some of this. But I'm leaving spaces in between because this is not the only greenery that I'll be using. And here you can see when I have a few of them put on. Wait, see how cute that looks so early? I'm just leaving some room in there. The secret here is to have the patience to wait for the hot glue to set. Now I'm going to use this pick that I got from Dollar Tree. It looks like little tiny flowers. And I'm going to glue them in between each one of these greenery right here. And I'm sorry that you're not able to see the front fully, but you're able to see what I'm doing onto that wood round. And I just added it in places in which I felt like I needed to add something else to fill it in. And I kept alternating between the 2 greeneries, filling in with the pink and these flowers against that paper. Look how cute that's looking, guys. I am loving these. I got them. I don't even know when I got them. I know I got them at Dollar Tree, but no idea when. So, I'm just filling it in until it looks happy. and happy. How you liking this so far? I like it, but I need some more depth. So I took some of this brown oxide from apple barrel with a small paintbrush, and I'm just going to go ahead and distress or outline the entire silhouette of the bunny and also of the wood round, just to give this more depth and a little bit more that distress, farmhouse look that I love. And don't forget to let me know what you think. I thought that this bunny needed a little bow, so here it is without the bow. And in the next take, you will see it with the bow. Let me know which one of it will you prefer, with or without the bow. The next inspiration today is also another Dollar Tree product. This is also a new product. And look how beautiful those little cutouts are. I'm going to paint it with my celery from Waverly, and this is what it's looking like so far. And then I'm going to take 4 beads out of this puzzle that I got from the toy section at Dollar Tree. I'm going to choose 4 of the dark brown ones. And I'm going to glue them to the bottom of my little crate using a combination of wood glue and hot glue. And here each of them have 2 sections in which they have little holes. So I made sure to use one of the sections that had a hole to glue this down so it wouldn't show. And then the other hole I put it to was the inside of the crate, so it also will not be as noticeable. And I repeated this process with all 4 of the legs. And now that our crate is ready, I'm going to take one of these bunnies that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to stain it using my Waverly Antique Wax and a baby wipe. Then using some Black & Decker paint and primer, I painted the tail and the raised sections of the ears. Once it was dry, I'm going to take some wood glue and some hot glue and attach the crate onto the bunny. Then I'm adding some floral foam to the crate. Now it's time to cover the floral foam with some floral moss. And then give it a quick haircut. Now it's time to add some carrots to this. I'm going to use this carrot garland that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm going to remove both the stem in the top and the jute cord from the bottom. And I'm going to replace the stem using some boxwood that I got from Walmart. I made a total of 4 carrots doing this. Now we're going to glue the carrots onto the floral moss. As you see right there, I'm just going to make sure that once I hit the hot glue, I just hold it in place. I want this to be in a slanted way and I don't want it to fall over. So I'm holding the carrots until they're completely set onto the floral moss. Once I created these 3 right here, I'm going to come in with some greenery that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use the same one I used for the previous DIY. And we are going to position it in different sections around the carrots. Then I took some of this floral from Dollar Tree. I'm going to cut it into small stems and add it to this planter as well in those places in which I have most of the floral moss still showing. I wanted to add some more orange to the front, so I'm going to glue the last carrot to the very front right here, making sure that it's in between all the other florals and it's just blending nicely. Look how cute that's looking. But I'm not done yet. We're going to finish it off with a cute little bow at the neck of the bunny, and then now we are done. Don't forget to let me know, what do you think about this one? I love it. Let me know what you think. All right. I started this project with this tag sign from Dollar Tree that I got from the Christmas season. I removed that tag and we are going to sand off all the rough edges of this tag. Then I gave it 2 coats with this white chalk paint and 3 coats with this yellow paint from Dollar Tree. Then we're going to take some of this craft paper from Dollar Tree as well, and I'm going to completely cover the back. I'm just going to cut off a section of paper that is big enough to cover that, and then using some hot glue, I'm going to attach it to the back of the sign. Just want to take a moment to give you a warm welcome. Thank you so much for clicking on my video. Thank you for watching. If you're new, I hope you will consider subscribing. And if you are one of my valued and amazing subscribers, thank you so much for your unending support. I hope today's video inspires you to create something beautiful. Then I use my X-Acto knife to remove all the excess paper from all the edges. Now that the base tag is ready, we are going to use this wood round and this kit from Dollar Tree. First, I'm going to go ahead and lay my pieces down so I know exactly how I want them. And then I'm going to work on each piece individually. First, I'm going to take the wood round and I'm going to paint it with 3 coats of this yellow paint from Dollar Tree. Once that dried, I'm going to take this brown oxide paint from Apple Barrel and paint the word hello. I'm going to set it aside to dry, and now we're going to remove that little hanger from the back. It just has a small screw, so just use my screwdriver to remove it, and then we are going to set everything up. So I'm going to place this wood round at the very center here, and I'm going to cut off all of those little pieces of ribbon that come attached with each one of the pieces of the chip. Then I'm going to use a generous amount of hot glue and glue that right in place in the middle. And I'm going to proceed and glue every single other piece as I have set them aside or set them together before. Friend, if you enjoyed this video so far, don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up. And if you truly enjoy it, go ahead and commit and hit the subscribe button. And when you do, make sure that you hit the notification bell so YouTube notifies you each time that I upload a new video. Thank you so much for your support. Now that our chicken is formed, we're going to take some of these ferns from Dollar Tree. I'm going to remove every single little leaf off of 3 picks of these, and I'm going to glue them alongside the edges of the entire chicken. And also added some of these picks from Dollar Tree. Once it was all set up, I'm going to use some of these flowers from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to use the white flowers off the pick. And I'm going to glue them in all the sections as I place them right there onto my chicken. I'm just adding a little bit of hot glue to the very tip of them and tucking it underneath the chicken. And that is it for this one. Let me know what you think. For our next inspiration today, we will be using one of these signs that I got from Dollar Tree during the summertime, and I'm going to go ahead and remove that little seahorse off of it. Then I took my sanding block and I'm going to go ahead and sand it over to make sure that this is nice and smooth with the other portion. Then I painted it with this white paint. And then I'm going to take this little stake that I got from Dollar Tree and I'm going to remove the stake portion off of it and the tag. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a refresh. It had some eggs in the bottom, and when I'm going for an Easter look, I'm going more for a spring look. So I went over it and I painted with a yellow paint from Dollar Tree, but it wasn't covering the entire thing. So here I'm coming in with some of the white and I painted the bottom, let it dry, and then I came back in with some of that yellow from Dollar Tree and I'm going to go over all the white that I painted. Then I decided to do the same thing with the face, but I'm going to use the white first so I get that vibrant, beautiful yellow that I got for the bottom. And here's my chicken looking fresh as spring. Then I came in with some of my black folk art paint and I'm going to color in the eyes just to give it a little more of a brighter look. I did like the rustic feel that the chicken had before, so I'm going to come in with some of my antique wax and I'm going to just go ahead and distress the front and the edges of the chicken. Using the same antique wax, I'm going to go ahead and stain the frame of the sign we painted white in the beginning. I wanted this to have a rustic look and for it to look as some wood. And this is how it turned out after 2 coats. Then I string some beads together, as you see right here, using 2 different sizes, and I'm going to stain them using the same antique wax. I put the beads to dry. In the meantime, I'm going to use some of this scrapbook paper that I got from a pack of Michaels. And here I'm just making indentations on it to see exactly how much I need to cut off so I'm able to place it inside this frame. Using those lines, I cut off a section and now I'm going to place it inside of the frame using some school glue from Dollar Tree. Once everything was bubble free, I'm going to take the beads and position them onto my sign. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue my chicken onto my sign. I just used a nice generous amount of hot glue. Then I glue this bow that I took off the stake right onto the neck of the chicken. Then I took some of this cord that I just found at Dollar Tree and I'm going to glue it around the entire seam of the sign. But wait, I'm not done yet. I'm going to add some of this greenery that I had left over from the flowers that I used for the previous DIY, and I'm going to glue it at the bottom as you see right there. Then I took another piece and I'm going to remove all 3 pieces and I'm going to put them to fill in on both sides. And then the third one, I'm going to cut it into 3 different pieces and place them at the front of the chicken. And that's it for this one. Let me know what you think. I want to take a quick moment to say thank you to my subscribers for subscribing, commenting, liking, sharing. All these things help me tremendously. They help my channel grow, and I appreciate you very much for them. And if you have not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe and join the Loli D's Creations family. It is free and it means the world to me. And here we go with the next inspiration. For this one, I want to use one of these signs that I got from Dollar Tree. I love it as it is, but I want to utilize it for something else as well. So to keep it and pretty much eat the cake and have it, I'm going to turn it into a double-sided sign. So first I'm going to remove the backing. I'm just going to push it down. It's just held by some staples. Then I'm going to go ahead and paint that wood that's on the back with 2 coats of white chalk paint. And then I'm going to cover it with some of this craft paper that I got from Michael's. And to attach the scrap paper, I'm going to use some school glue from Dollar Tree. Then we are going to reposition that frame to it. I'm going to go ahead and use some hot glue to keep it in place. Look how cute that's looking. All right, now I'm going to take one of these chickens that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go ahead and cover up that hole with a little bit of hot glue. I'm going to just swipe off the excess, and then I'm going to cover it with this fabric that I just got from Dollar Tree. And to do that, I use a generous amount of Mod Podge. Once I make sure it was completely covered, I'm going to take these little scissors that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just fussy cut around the entire chicken. Then I came in with some Mod Podge, and I'm going to add it to all the edges to make sure that the fabric is completely adhered to every single curve of the chicken, so I do not lose its shape. Taking a tumbling tower block, I'm going to glue the chicken onto it. I wanted it to be a little bit raised, so this is why I added this. And then I'm going to glue the chicken right to the center of the frame. I took these pieces of fern that I got left over from a pick that I used for previous DIY, and I'm going to glue it on the sides of the chicken. First, I glued it to the bottom, but I wanted to cut off that excess piece so it laid flat, and then glue the fern to the bottom towards the feet. Once that was in place, I'm going to do the same thing with the other side, and then I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue to the top as well, trying to form an arch using the fern pieces. It was looking cute, but you know already, I'm not done yet. I'm going to take a piece of ribbon and make a quick little bow using it and glue it to the very bottom of the ferns. And you're thinking I'm done? I'm not done yet. I created a little shoelace bow with a double loop, and I'm going to add it to the chicken and also glue down the bow's tails. Now on to the other side, I went over and I painted the back end, and then I'm going to reposition that paper that came off from the original sign, and I'm going to glue it using some school glue from Dollar Tree. And to finish it off, I'm going to use some of this cord that I just got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue it along the entire edges of the inside of the frame. I wanted it to be as neat as possible, so any parts that will fray in, I'm going to just add some hot glue and reposition it in place so it stays nice and tight in those areas. And that is it for this one. Don't forget to let me know what you think. For the next inspiration today, I'm going to use one of these chicken cutouts that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to paint it with one coat of this yellow paint from Dollar Tree. Using some of this apple barrel white paint, I'm going to use the back of a pencil, and I'm going to create polka dots on one side of the chick. To add some interest, I'm creating the polka dots in different sizes. Once it was dry, it's now time to embellish it. I'm going to use these burlap flowers that I got from Dollar Tree. But first, I'm going to take some jute cord, and I'm going to wrap the jute cord around the neck of my chick 3 times. Cut off the excess and tack it down with a little bit of hot glue. And then add one of the flowers to the front of my chick. And that is it for this one. Let me know what you think. For the next inspiration, we will be using one of these little chickens that we got from a pack I ate from Dollar Tree. I painted it white completely to have a nice clean base to work with. Then I took some of the yellow paint from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to go ahead and cover the chick portion using that color. I gave it a total of 2 coats. To add some more color, I'm going to come in with this moss color from Waverly, and I'm going to cover the inside of the flower sections of the egg. Then I'm using my black paint pen from Artisa to color in my eyes, and I'm using the indentations that are already there, and I'm still showing through the paint to go ahead and replace my face. Now I'm taking some of this orange Artisa paint from Artisa, and I'm going just over the nose. And then I'm going to come in with this pink color, and I'm coloring in the rosy chicks. Then I decided to add black to the beak to give it a little more interest, so I did that. And then added some white to the eyes using the back of a paintbrush. I took the orange paint pen and colored in the inside of the beak. And added some more pink to the rosy cheeks. To finish up the flowers, I'm adding some dots using the back of a paintbrush. And I used some white apple barrel paint to do that. Next, I took one of these little picket fences from Dollar Tree, and I stained it using my Antiques wax from Waverly. Then I took a glass cleaner wipe, and I'm removing all the excess wax because I wanted this to look worn and not as dark as it was. Now we're going to take the little chick, and we're going to distress it a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and take off some of that brightness that the yellow has, but just adding a light amount of that antique wax to it just to bring down that brightness. And then I added some more antique wax to all the edges, but a little bit heavier to have the edges look nice and worn and distressed. I added a distressed feel to the entire portion of the cracked egg. Then use the leftover in the brush to distress the rest. Now it's time to go ahead and add some moss to the bottom of this. I just want it to look a little bit more natural, and I love the feel or the look of green over that wood color. So I'm just adding, this is called like Neconium or something like that. It's a different moss that Dollar Tree had, and I just cut it in small pieces, and I'm going to add it onto the bottom as you see there using some hot glue. Now it's time to attach the little chick to the fence. Now I'm using this greenery that I use for different DIY, and I'm going to cut it into individual little pieces. I took 2 of those pieces, and I'm gliding them up on the left-hand side of the chick, and I'm going to glue them down using some hot glue. To hide the hot glue, I added a little bit more at that little bit of moss onto it. And then I added a piece of boxwood that I also had left over from another DIY. I also added some of these white flowers that I used for another DIY. Friends, if you're still with me this far into the video, thank you so much. I truly appreciate you. And if you have not done so, make sure that you hit that like button And go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know what you thought of each one of the projects in this video. And if you have any suggestions of what you would like me to make next on my videos. Also, don't forget to share, because sharing is caring and it truly helps my channel grow. I truly appreciate you doing all these things for me, and I appreciate you spending time with me today as well. With that being said, I took one of these butterflies that I got from a kit from Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to glue it to that little edge right there, just using some hot glue. And that completes this beautiful DIY. Don't forget to let me know what you think. And here we go with the final reveal. I'm using this grapevine wreath that I got from my local thrift shop. I'm just going to remove all the embellishments that it came with, and we are going to just use the wreath as the base to our project. And we are going to add in this bunny that I got from the plus section for $3 at Dollar Tree. We are going to remove that tag, and we are going to take some zip ties and attach this to our wreath form. I took a little skewer and I'm going to add 2 little holes on the fabric of the bottom of the bunny head, as you see right there, making sure that it's even. And I'm just circling my skewer there and holding it in place to make sure that hole stays in place. And then I'm going to feed my zip tie through there and making sure that the fastening section of the zip tie is towards the back of the bunny. That way this will be also in the back when I tighten it up. In this step, it's important to make sure that you put in that zip tie a little bit further up into the bunny's head, so you have plenty of security on that fabric and it doesn't flap or break as you tighten it up. Now it's time to add some embellishments. So I'm going to use a variety of picks that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to just, go ahead and cut them into individual little stems and place them around the entire grapevine wreath in different areas. I'm not adding any hot glue, just to make sure that later on if I want to use this to something else. And also the vine wreath provides enough security for each one of these pieces to stay in place. I had 3 different varieties of this hanging berries from Dollar Tree. I'm using the pink, yellow, and purple. And I'm trying to, when I'm adding them onto the wreath, I am adding variations of those colors in the same order. And then I'm going to be filling in any blind spaces or any bare spaces, I want to say. And, with the same colors, trying to keep it nice and uniform. As I kept adding the vines in, I'm also started tucking under those long pieces that tend to dangle, so I have some coverage of the wreath instead of having them dangle down. I kept positioning every stem one after the other, tucking them into the grapevine wreath at the level in which the previous one ended, so that way I had a nice coverage of green along the entire wreath, making sure to alternate between the colors so I had a nice distribution of all 3 colors. As I go along, I'm also redistributing the long pieces of the stems in different sections, making sure to fill in any blank spots. and trying to alternate those colors in between, trying to create some kind of symmetry. And I just continued to do this until my wreath was nicely covered and I was happy with the amount of florals on it. I used about, I will say about 5 different of these hang and berry ones and 2 of the sunflower looking pink flowers. My friends, if you enjoyed this video so far, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. And I hope you will consider subscribing. And also hit the notification bell and set it to all so YouTube notifies you each time that I upload a new video. All these things are free and they mean the world to me. So go ahead and subscribe. Alright, now I'm going to use some of these daisy looking flowers. I don't remember the name of them and I tossed the tags. But what I did is I cut them into individual flowers as you see there, and I'm poking the stem through the vine and then bending it on the bottom of it and then folding it into the vine again, kind of like creating a hook so it stays in place. And I place them about, I will say about 3 inches away from each other, just trying to leave some space in the bottom because I have other plants for that. And this is how it was looking once I positioned all my flowers onto the wreath. But there was some places that still had a little bit of bald spots or areas in which you didn't see as much of the greenery. So this is here, I'm just coming in with some more of those hanging picks and just filling in the sections that need filling in. Then I took 2 of the bunny poles that come from Dollar Tree in a pack of 8, and I went to stain the flat section using my antique wax from Waverly. And I'm going to leave those raised edges undone. Then using ballet slipper from Waverly, I'm going to paint all those raised sections of the poles. Now that the poles are dry, I'm going to go ahead and glue them to the bottom section of my bunny wreath. I just use a generous amount of hot glue and I'm placing them mostly on the top of the greenery because I do want these to show pretty nicely. Once both of them were nicely adhered, I'm just going to reposition that flower in between both of my feet, and that concludes this beautiful wreath. Next inspiration. I'm going to start with this arrow sign that I got from Dollar Tree. The first thing that I'm going to do is paint it. I wanted this to have like a khaki color to it, so I decided to mix some of my brown oxide with some white, and I was trying to create that khaki color. I mixed it, it looked good, and at the moment I went over and I painted the entire thing with it. And as I was painting, it was looking so peachy. So I came back in with some more of the brown, but I'm using chocolate brown instead. I'm trying to eliminate that, but it didn't work. So I came back in with this chiffon cream chalk paint from Rust-Oleum. And I just gave it 1 coat. Once that paint dried, I'm coming in with some antique wax from Waverly, and I'm using a dauber, and I'm just dabbing that antique wax on top of the letters, so I do not get it on that flat surface, only on the letters, and I'm bringing that down, just using a small amount of that wax on it, but making sure not to dab too far down so I don't stain the background. Using the same dauber, I'm distressing the edges of the arrow as well, just sliding it up and down as you see there, and also dabbing it in an angle so I have a little bit of a distressed look at the front as well. While that dried, I'm going to take this planter and I'm going to glue this block of floral foam to the bottom of it using some hot glue. Then I'm going to take this stake that I got from Dollar Tree and I'm going to go ahead and remove the tag from it and glue the arrow to it using some hot glue. I didn't want it to be straight I wanted it to be slanted, so I glued it crooked. And then I'm going to put it onto my floral foam. Then I took a variety of different picks from Dollar Tree. These are hydrangeas, and I love the color that they came in. So I'm just cutting them into individual stems and placing them in different areas of my floral foam, trying to put them in, that nice distance that I can put other flowers in between, and everything looks nice and cohesive. Then I took some of the leftovers flowers that I used for the previous DIY, and I'm going to stick them in different sections in between the hydrangeas and trying to alternate between the colors that I had left over as well. Then I took some more of these pink daisies, and I'm going to add them in between in all those areas that you see blank. I'm going to just add them in there. I used a total of, I believe it was 1.5 picks of it. And this is looking so pretty so far, but I'm not done yet. I'm going to take some of this ribbon from Dollar Tree and glue it around the planter. Then I created a bow using the same ribbon, and I'm gluing this ribbon that came with the stake on top of that first bow that I created with the leftover ribbon. And this is going to be glued at the base of the bunny. And this concludes this DIY. You'll see it in just 1 second. It came out so cute. Let me know what you think. For our next inspiration, we want to be doing a faith-based wood round. I'm going to start with this wood round that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to paint it with 2 coats of my Black & Decker paint and primer and plaster of Paris mixture. Once the paint dried, I'm going to take some Mod Podge and I'm going to completely cover the front of the wood round. If you enjoyed my channel and you're enjoying the DIYs I have showed you so far, please don't forget to leave me a like, comment, subscribe, and share, because sharing helps my channel grow and sharing is caring. So please let me know what you think by leaving me a comment, like, and share. Alright, once that Mod Podge was tacky, I'm placing down a piece of tissue paper that I got from a tissue pack of Dollar Tree. I'm trying to make sure that it is nice and wrinkle-free from the beginning, and I'm just going to rub it down different directions, trying to eliminate any wrinkles or folds. And once everything is at here, I'm going to just take my scissors and cut off the excess paper. There were still a couple wrinkles on here, so just lifted my tissue paper very carefully to remove those little bubbles, and then I placed it down again. Then I took some parchment paper and I'm going to place it over my tissue paper, and using my heat press, I'm going to go ahead and completely adhere the tissue paper to the surface. What happens is that the heat reactivates the Mod Podge, allowing it to go ahead and adhere nicely to the paper. And of course, the iron also removed wrinkles, making this tissue paper look like it was always on the round. Then I took my nail file that I got from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to file down all the edges of the tissue paper. And I do that by only going in a downward motion to avoid any tearing or any lifting of the tissue. And look how nice and crisp that turned out. Alright, so then I took this piece that I got from Hobby Lobby. It says he is risen. I removed that tag. It was originally $2.99, but I got it for 40% off, which made it $1.09. So I took my antique wax and I'm going to cover the entire piece with it. And let's just say I didn't like how it turned out once I put it on top of the wood round. So I decided to take my Moss color from Waverly and add it to the center of the wood round. And I figure that this will give my round a nice solid surface in which you can truly read those letters or those words. Here I'm just testing to see how it would look, and I still didn't like it. I didn't pop the way I wanted it to pop. So I came in with my white color from Apple Barrel and I painted the word and using it. And then I took my nail file and sanded down everything to give it a more rustic look. And also dull down that brown color so it will not completely wash away the details on the wood round. But it was a little too rustic for me. So I came back in with some more of that white color and I came back over the letters one more time and let it dry. And I still felt like it was a little bit washed out, especially the word is. So I decided to come in with some antique wax and go ahead and paint over that little banner that is around or between the letters, just to try to give the lettering a little bit more definition so it is easily read. I really want this message to be out there. So that didn't work out either. So I'm coming in with this dark green color that I got from Dollar Tree. I usually just use this for staining or things like that. But this time I used it and I covered the entire leaf section of the round. And I also added it to the little flag in the middle as well. Here I'm just going in one direction, sanding things down. I just wanted to give it a little bit of a rustic look. So I'm just doing that in order to dull down the green a little bit and also make the other colors look more rustic. And then here I was happy with it. You can clearly read what I was saying or what the sign was saying. So I was finally happy with the results. But before I glued anything together, I wanted to create a hanger. So I'm using the tan color beads that I got from packages of beads during the Easter time at Dollar Tree. I'm adding some hot glue to the tip of some jute cord, and I'm going to thread the beads into here to create a hanger for my wood round. I did not count how many beads I did. I totally forgot. But I will say maybe like, I don't know, 20 of them. And I'm just going to go ahead and tie the jute cord. I'm using the same jute cord that came with the sign with the wood round originally. And what I did is I tied it into 2 knots and then I put the edge against the jute cord and put beads over it to completely eliminate that extra little piece that was hanging out. And then I tightly tied it up again on the other side, making sure though that the beads are sitting on top of the edge of the wood round and not at the front of the wood round. And I give that also 2 knots and cut off the excess. Now that the hanger is in position, it is safe to go ahead and glue this on top. And I was liking how this was looking, but I need a little bit more. You know already, I'm not done yet. I decided that I wanted some greenery on here. So I decided to use some of this white pick from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to cut 2 sections of the pick and I'm going to put it in each side of that flower. And I'm also going to use one of those roses that are on this side. But first I wanted to make sure that this was nicely put together. So once I was happy with how they fell together there after I curved them, I'm going to just place them in a dollop of hot glue. I made sure that I held it in place until it dried, and then I'm going to add one of these roses to the middle, also removing the little plastic piece and adding some hot glue and just holding it in place until it's set. And that is it for this one. Let me know what you think. For this next inspiration, I'm going to be using one of these wooden crosses that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm painting it with 2 coats of my Black & Decker paint and primer and Plaster Paris mixture. Then I'm going to use this leftover greenery pick that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to cut it very short. And then we are going to glue it to the very base of this cross. So just added a decent amount of hot glue to the bottom of the base of the cross. And then I'm going to press down this until it sets in place. And then I'm going to take some floral moss, actually Spanish moss from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to place it also at the base of this greenery just to cover up that hot glue. Then I took some of this ribbon from Dollar Tree. I love this purple color. And what I'm going to do is try to measure exactly how much I'm going to need to put over this cross. Once I'm happy with the amount, and I'm pretty sure that that's the amount I want, I'm just going to go ahead and cut that off. And I'm going to remove that napkin. Now I'm going to remove this ribbon from here, and I'm going to fold it together as you see right there, and then fold it in half longwards and cut up in an angle, and that create dovetails on both sides. Then I'm going to go ahead and drip it over my cross as you see right here, and using a little bit of hot glue, I'm going to tack both of those ends onto the cross. And just like that, this beautiful piece is complete. Let me know what you think. For the next inspiration, we will be using one of these canvases that I got on clearance from Five Below. I took some of the same tissue paper that I used for the previous DIY. I'm going to cut a section that is big enough to cover, I will say, 2/3 of the canvas. Then I took some Mod Podge and I'm going to add it to the canvas exactly in the areas in which I plan to put the tissue paper on. So I'm just making sure that it covers every inch on here. I'm using first here, I'm putting it towards the middle of the canvas, but I'm slowly using that excess Mod Podge and bringing it upwards until it comes to 2/3 of the canvas. And I also make sure to add it to the edges as well. While the Mod Podge was still kind of damp, I'm going to add on my tissue paper, as you see right there, starting from the top and smoothing it out, being very careful not to tear it and to have the grooves of the canvas sew through, and so it will look like just one seamless piece. And here on the edges, I'm adding a little bit more Mod Podge on there, making sure that that's stacked down. And I'm going to do the same thing towards the back as well. And I'm going to fold all this tissue paper onto the back of the canvas. And I'm just going to cut off any excess that remains. Once this was completely down, I came back with some Mod Podge and I sealed the tissue paper in the front as well. And I also added some Mod Podge to the canvas as well. Then I took some jute cord and I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue to the very top here towards the middle of the canvas on the back, and I'm going to wrap it in a diagonal way. Like I started a little bit to the right there, actually to the left there, and I'm bringing my jute cord to the bottom towards the right, and I'm just keep wrapping it around, making sure that each strand is next to each other and that is making the jute cord wider and wider with every single strand. Once I was happy with the amount that I had in one side, I am doing the opposite, but wrapping it on the opposite way. When it was time to transition, I made sure that I made the transition on the back of the canvas instead of the front, so that way I will be having this nice cross-like figure here on the front, and I'm making sure that where the two twines meet are exactly where that piece of tissue paper ends. And then once I had it like that, I'm going to glue it to the side, and we're going to start the same process, but I'm going to put it on the sides now. And I added it close to where I wanted the middle of it to be, and I'm going to be doing the same exact thing that I did for that other side, but I'm doing it perpendicular to this one. And I might go a little bit less, the girth of the jute cord here will be a little bit less than it was for the other side, the horizontal side, or the vertical? Oh, the vertical side. So here I'm doing my horizontal crisscross twine here, doing the same exact thing, trying to keep both sides pretty even and trying to have it look nice and neat by having the jute cord be next to the previous one until together they just form this beautiful cross. Once there was no more empty spaces in between the jute cord, I'm just going to go ahead and glue down that piece, and then taking another piece of jute cord, I'm going to cut it right there, and we are going to tie all these pieces together with that jute cord. So I'm just going to put it against all of them and create a nice and tight double knot and cut that excess jute cord. And I'm going to do the same thing in the front as well, but here I'm making sure to make the knot towards the side, so it is easy for me to go ahead and tuck it under the cross so it has a nice and seamless look. And the reason that I do this is because I want no little bumps there, because I have plans for that joint right there. Now I'm going to take one of these flowers that I got from Dollar Tree. I think they're called redunculus, and they're Farmhouse redunculus from Dollar Tree. So here I'm gluing down that plastic piece onto the flower. So when I cut that stem that helps the flower join onto the pick, it will not fall apart. So I went over, did that, and then I'm cutting off the piece I'm talking about. And I'm going to add a generous amount of hot glue in there, making sure to try to weld those together. And I'm adding extra so I can glue this right onto the middle of my cross. And that is it for this one. I love this piece. Actually, no, I'm not done yet. I was like, this is cute, but I wanted a little bit more depth. So usually when I want some more depth, I distress the edges and stuff. So I took some of this brown oxide color from Apple Barrel, and I'm using a small brush, and I'm just going to go ahead and distress all those edges of the canvas just to make this a little bit more rustic. And that is it for this one. Let me know what you think. And here we go with it. For our first inspiration, we are going to go ahead and use some spoons. And I'm going to use one of these golf balls that come in a pack of 6 from Dollar Tree from the toy section. And I'm going to glue the spoons to it, as you see right there, adding a nice generous amount of hot glue. Once I add the second spoon, I'll make sure to overlap it a little bit over the other spoon. And I continue to do this until the entire side of the golf ball was completely covered. It took me 5 spoons to do this. Friends, I want to take a quick moment to say thank you for clicking on my video. Thank you for watching, and welcome. Once all 5 spoons were here, we are going to go ahead and clip off the handles. And I'm going to trim it a little bit at the end here to make sure that they're not sharp and that they all are the same level. And then I continue to add some more spoons, but now I'm cutting them before I add them on. So I'm trying to add them to the places where the 2 previous spoons overlap, and then adding it, making sure that we have nice adhesion, but a little bit lower than the other ones, so they look a little bit more spaced in between. And here I'm just cutting some extra ones so I don't have to cut as I'm going. And we are going to save those sticks because we're going to be using further out. So then here, just adding some hot glue exactly where we see that the spoon will fall, and then just place it in place until it dries. And for the second row, I added, I believe it was 5 also, 5 spoons as well. In the second row, there was a little bit less adhesion, so I was just adding some hot glue to the places that was not touching, just to make sure that each one of the spoons was secured properly. And this is how it's looking like so far. So now we are going to add some hot glue to the back of all the spoons just to give this a little bit more stability and more security. And we're going to add some more spoons apparently. There was some areas in which I felt like it needed a little bit more, so I came in with just 1 more. And now we're going to take this little dowel rod and we're going to add some hot glue to the bottom of this piece, as you see there, hold it in place. I am holding it upward because I want that glue to go a little bit to the stick. And then I'm going to fill up the entire cavity with hot glue to make sure that the stick stays in place. Once it's dried, I'm going to add it to a piece of foam, as you see right here, and I'm going to take it outside and spray paint it with this yellow Rust-Oleum paint. While that drying, I'm going to take this terracotta planter and paint it using some apple barrel white paint. I got this little guy from the Dollar Tree. Then I'm going to use this napkin that I also got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut it so I have enough to cover this piece right here. I'm going to remove that extra ply that the napkin comes with, and then I'm going to take some Mod Podge, and we're going to add Mod Podge to the little terracotta planter in small sections, and we're going to keep adding the napkin as you see right here. I am adding it very carefully, making sure that I have a little bit of an overlap towards the top of the terracotta planter, and as you see here, I am patting it down to make sure that it also contours to the little edges and the ridges of the terracotta planter. And then I'm coming in with a wet brush with Mod Podge, and I'm making sure that that lays really flat. I wasn't trying to have this look like completely wrinkle free. I do want this to have a nice Mod Podge or Decoupage look to it. So I'm just adding the Mod Podge on top of the napkin, adhering it as I'm also sealing it at the same time, making sure that it adheres to each of the contours of this piece. And I'm just going in small sections here, and I'm cutting off any excess, and I'm adding some to the bottom here and bringing the sides in to make sure that I have a nice finished piece. And I'm just adding pieces of napkins here and there until I have the entire terracotta planter completely covered. And I did not just do one layer of napkins, I did two. This is what it looked like. Once everything was nice and dry, I'm going to take some of this, I believe this is called chocolate brown from Apple Barrel, and I'm going to give 2 coats of that paint to the dowel rod. I put it down to dry, and once that dried, I'm going to go ahead and add some floral moss to my plant, as you see right there. Just make sure to secure it with some hot glue at the bottom, and then I'm going to position that right into my planter, as you see right there. Then I'm going to come in with some of this Spanish moss from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue it on top of my floral foam as well. I gave it a quick little haircut, making sure that everything was nice and neat. I cleaned up that mess I had with my moss. And then I'm going to take some jute cord and just button off the fuzzies before I add it to my planter. And just added a little bit of hot glue to different sections of the planter and wrapped it around that seam, as you see right there, making sure to land in that first piece where I ended. And I just cut the piece of jute cord flush to that piece to make sure that it looked like one continuous piece. I went over and just glued the end right here, making sure that it was nice and seamless. And then I created a little jute cord bow and added it right into that seam so it will not be visible. First, of course, I had to bond the fuzzies. And this is what it turned out like. You'll see it again in the final reveal. All right, for our next inspiration today, we will be using some clothespins. So we're going to take these clothespins from the Dollar Tree. So for this, I ended up using, I believe it was six clothespins I used. And I'm just removing them from the little metal clip things over here. And I'm just going to butt them to each other in the opposite of how they were. And I'm going to glue them together using some hot glue and some wood glue. And I made sure to add a little bit of boxwood on the very top. In that section on here, I guess not where you will squeeze, but where the clothespin will be squeezing onto something, if that make any sense. This you see right there, look at what I mean. And I did that with all 6 of these. For the second one here, I tried a different technique that I want to show you. Here I did the glue in first, and then I put it in the middle. But here I'm adding the glue first to one side only, adding the hot glue in, then putting my piece of boxwood onto that piece where the hot glue was, and then sandwiching them together. So you can do it either way, is easiest for you. And then I filled up the holes with some hot glue. Now it's time to paint them. I used this pumpkin orange color from Apple Barrel and I painted all the wood using this color, making sure to do 2 coats on the areas that had the hot glue. Once those were nice and dry, I'm going to go ahead and arrange them as you see right here. So I'm just want to put 3 buttered up together, making sure the flat section was the bottom, and I'm putting 3 in the bottom and 2 in the top. And I'm going to tie them with some jute cord. I just tied them in a single knot first, then wrap the jute cord around the entire bundle of carrots. If you can see right here, they're carrots. And I'm going to just wrap it around a couple of times and then give it a little cute jute bow right there. And then I'm going to embellish it using this little flower that I got from a pick from Dollar Tree, and just removing that stem off. And we're going to glue it towards the top section of that bow using some hot glue. And that is it for this one. Let me know what you think. More of it in the final review. Our next inspiration here, we're going to be using these mouse straps. So we're going to remove it from the packaging and remove all that metal contraption thing, being very careful not to hurt ourselves with it. So I use a screwdriver for most of the work and some needle nose pliers as well. My friends, if you enjoyed this video so far, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up. And I hope you enjoy it and you consider subscribing. And if you do, hit the notification bell so it notifies you each time that I upload a new video. All these things are free and they mean the world to me. Once all pieces were off, I'm going to just go ahead and sand off the edges. And this was a sticker, so just remove that. And we're going to sand off all the edges, making sure that there's no splinters. And we're going to fill in the little holes left behind with a little bit of hot glue. I added the hot glue and then I used a little wipey and my favorite tool, my nail, to go ahead and smooth that over so we have no bumpy areas. So here we're going to just paint the piece using some white Apple Barrel chalk paint. Then I decided that I did not want that piece of wire after all. I removed it, I sanded it off a little bit, and added a little bit of hot glue off camera. And then here I'm going to go ahead and add some Mod Podge to the front of this piece. Let the Mod Podge become tacky. And then I'm going to add some of this napkin to it. I just cut a piece that was big enough to fit the entire piece. I removed that second ply of tissue off of it. And I'm going to add that paper there when the Mod Podge is damp. It can stick on it, but it's not going to saturate the paper, and this avoids any wrinkling. So I'm just placing it down until it adheres correctly. And then I'm going to come in with a piece of, what is this? Plastic wrap, saran wrap, and some heat, smoothing out some edges that did not adhere completely. And this was so easy to do. Now here, just using my nail file to sand off any excess napkin on the edges of this little board. Then we're going to add this carrot to the front, as you see right there, just using some hot glue to adhere it. To embellish it a little further, I took some jute cord. I burned off the fuzzies, of course, and then I'm going to glue it to the middle of my piece right there, and I wrapped it around 2 times. I glued it right there in the middle and attached a jute cord bow to the front. And that is it for this one. More of it in the final review. I want to take a quick moment to say thank you to my subscribers for subscribing, commenting, liking, sharing. All these things help me tremendously. They help my channel grow, and I appreciate you very much for them. And if you have not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe and join the Lori D's Creations family. It is free and it means the world to me. For our next inspiration this evening, we will be using another one of these mouse straps from Dollar Tree. I already took everything off, sanded it down, patched up the holes, and now we're going to paint it with this white Apple Barrel acrylic paint. And I'm going to use this little bunny also from Dollar Tree, and I also painted it white. Now we're going to use the same napkin that we used for the previous DIY. We're going to cut a section that is big enough to cover our bunny. I'm going to remove that extra ply of napkin, and we are going to Mod Podge our bunny. As I'm Mod Podging the bunny, I wanted to have a little bit of texture, so I do not want that napkin to be perfect. So I am adding my napkin to the Mod Podge as it's still wet, And I'm just tapping in dog as I'm going, and I'm adding Mod Podge on top of it as well to adhere it to the board, and at the same time protect my napkins. So here I'm just going in smaller portions, adding Mod Podge as needed, because the Mod Podge for me right now is drying pretty quickly. It's kind of hot right now where I'm sitting, so I'm doing it slowly, taking my time, making sure that every little inch of this bunny is properly adhered to the napkin, or the napkin to the bunny, either way. I also continue to add some more Mod Podge to the top of my bunny, because I did want to make sure that I had some of those wrinkles come through on here as well. And even though I was doing it pretty wet, the napkin barely had any wrinkles. And I wanted to also make sure that my edges were nicely saturated, because instead of sanding off, I wanted to tear off that napkin off my bunny and have a nice clean cut on all of the edges. So this is what I'm doing right here, and just ripping the pieces of the napkin apart, making sure to be careful not to rip it off the bunny. And I seal the edges with some more Mod Podge. Then I'm going to dry it really quickly with a heat gun, and then we are going to add this on. But first I wanted to sand down some areas that had a little bit of paper looking a bit messy, so I'm just sanding down those areas. It wasn't that much sanding. Now I'm going to take this cube that I got from Dollar Tree. I painted it in 3 sides, and I'm going to glue it to the bunny and to the board underneath, as you see right there, to have my bunny stand up. Now we are going to embellish it. I'm going to take this little carrot that I got. I think I got this from, it's a charm that came from a garland at Dollar Tree. So I'm going to just add this to my bunny in a little slant, as you see right there. And then I'm going to come in with some flowers as well. These also came from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to cut small flowers of those. I believe I added 2 to this. I'm cutting the stems pretty short, adding some hot glue to the back of my flowers, and I'm going to add them right there at the feet of my bunny. And then I'm going to add a little teeny weeny little dot there for the eye. And then I decided to add some greenery. So I'm taking pieces of boxwood that I got from Walmart and added it at the very front and at the very back of my bunny. But I still thought that the face looked a little bit bland, so I'm painting here a tiny nose and some whiskers to finish it off. And that is it for this one. You'll see it again in the final reveal. For the next inspiration this evening, we're going to be using some more spoons from Dollar Tree. This one is kind of similar to the first one, but here I'm using also the golf ball and adding it in the same manner, but we're going to add a little bit more spoons that we did for the first DIY. So I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm adding the spoons onto the ball, trying to have the ball nestle in that indentation in the spoon, and I'm overlapping the spoons as I go a little bit right there. And I started with 5 of them interlocking, or actually, pretty much overlapping onto each other. And here I'm just going ahead and trimming it off as I did with the previous one. And with here, I'm going to be adding a bit more rows than I did for the first one. And this is what I turned out with. Then I'm going to take it outside and paint it yellow as we did with the previous one. But I'm going to add some burlap to this. So I took a piece of burlap that I got from Dollar Tree and I folded it in 3 sections. And then I'm going to glue it in place to keep that seam from unraveling. I just used some hot glue to do that. Just being very careful not to burn myself, as the glue can easily go through the holes of the burlap. Once it was nice and dry, I'm going to cut off that excess burlap. Now we are going to adhere it to the flower. So I started here in the corner, making sure that I have a nice clean cut on my burlap before adding it on. And I'm going to be scrunching it up, as you see right there, as I glue it along the entire circumference of the flower. As I near the end of my flower here, I'm making sure to adhere it, to be symmetrical with where I started. I hold it in place, make sure that both pieces of burlap are nicely united so they're seamless, and then I cut off that excess burlap. Now I'm going to scrunch it, as you see right there, and I'm going to add hot glue on the pleats to make sure that they stay in place. And then I'm going to add hot glue to the inside of the burlap there. That way when I squeeze it together, it will adhere together. And I hold it in place until that hot glue set. I reinforced with a little bit of hot glue in some areas that did not adhere correctly and held it in place for a little bit longer. And then I took a piece of burlap and cut it in a circle. And we're going to glue it on top of that area that we just glued to give it a more finished look. Make sure to use your finger protectors for this part right here, because it's quite easy to get burned. I did. There we go. That's me being burned. All right, so then we are going to cut off any excess burlap that is not as ruly and cute. So this is nicely finished. And guys, I decided that I wanted this a different color. So I took some of that pumpkin orange color from Apple Barrel, and I'm going to paint it on all of the petals, going in a outward or a straight up motion on the paint brushes, so I can have some of that yellow peek through alongside with the orange. And that is it for this one. More of it in the final reveal. For this next inspiration, we are going to be using another mouse strap. So I'm going to be using the board from the mouse strap. We're going to paint it white with our Apple Barrel white paint. Then we're going to add Mod Podge to the entire board. I'm going to start with one side first, making sure they're heavily nice and thick. And I'm going to let it be a little tacky. Then I'm going to add a piece of this napkin that I got from Dollar Tree. I use it for the previous DIYs. And I'm just making sure that it's nice and straight. Pardon my nails and pardon my skin as well, guys. I put spray paint all over myself, so I had to pretty much wash my hands with Goo Gone. And yeah, that was not cool. You can see how dry my hands were after that. But here I'm just using some heat just to reactivate that Mod Podge and lay this napkin nice and wrinkle free. Then I took some of this other napkin from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cut a piece that is big enough to cover that piece that remained blank. So I'm going to add some Mod Podge to that as well, using a small brush, making sure to line that other one nicely. I don't want the other one to be wrinkly. So I waited for the Mod Podge to become tacky, and now I'm placing it down, making sure that I have a nice seamless look between both of these two napkin pieces. Once it was nicely adhered, I'm going to use my file and sand off any excess. Now it's time to attach this little bunny from Dollar Tree. It came in a pack of 6, I believe, or 8. And I'm just going to place it right there towards the bottom. And look how cute that is. But I'm not done yet. I'm going to take some jute cord and we're going to wrap it towards the top section of this piece. So just added a little bit of hot glue in the back, placed the tip of my jute cord on there, wrapped it twice, and attached it back in the back one more time with some hot glue. And then finish it off with a small bow. But wait, I forgot, I'm not done yet. I decided to add some greenery to this as well. So I added some of these flowers, these yellow flowers from Dollar Tree. I just trimmed off the outside pieces to make it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to add it to the bow at the top there. Then I added small pieces of boxwood as well. One to the top section above the bow, and one towards the bottom of the body. And that is it for this one. You'll see it again in the final review. For our next inspiration here, we are going to be using those little stems from the spoons, along with the last mouse strap. I am cutting the handles of the spoons here and figure out exactly what height I want. Once I figure that out, I'm going to use this piece as a template to cut the other 11 pieces of spoon. As you see right there, I'm just measuring them onto that spoon handle. I'm going to use a small marker to mark exactly where I need to cut it, and I'm going to use my snips right there to cut this, and I cut a total of 12 pieces. As I was cutting, I make sure to also sand down the edges to make sure that it was nice and straight and even. And here are 12 of my pieces all complete. The very top of the stems had this little piece on the top, so I'm going to go ahead and sand it down on each one of those as well. And here they are, nice and smooth. Now we're going to position 4 of our pieces on the long sides and 2 on the shorter sides. So here I'm just using some hot glue to do that, holding it in place until it's set. And I'm doing the 2 corners first here. And then I'm going to try to space out the other 2 on each side, trying to make sure that I have everything nice and even. Once those sides were nicely done, I'm going to go ahead and take some of these little stir sticks, little pieces that I got from Dollar Tree. They're kind of like stir sticks to me. So I'm going to go ahead and glue it in the middle of those, let's call it pickets. Okay, right there. We're going to measure exactly how much we need. And I'm going to use my snips here to cut off the excess. Then I added a generous amount of hot glue to each one of the little pickets and then position my little stir stick on top of that and then cleaned off any excess. Here I'm using that edge of wood to guide me of where to put the one on the side. So I want to butt them together as you see right there. And then I added the other corner of that side using the hot glue as well. And we're going to cut a piece of stir stick to go in between at each one of these pickets. So I did that on here on all 3 sides. We're going to first position this piece here on this side because I want to do my, let's say that's horizontal. Yes, my horizontal pieces of stir sticks on this side first. So I have the perfect guide to add the other 2. And it is easiest to put this together. So once I know how much I need, I'm going to cut off that excess and we're going to glue it on to that side. And I'm going to repeat the same process with the other 2 sides. Now I'm going to add some stir sticks in between each one of those little pickets that we did with the spoon handles. I'm measuring here a size that's a little bit smaller than the spoon handle pickets. I'm going to go ahead and add one of these little stir sticks after I've sanded down nice and flush to make sure that this is even right there in between at each one of the spoon handle picket. And using my snips, I created a little pointy end. And I repeated this process throughout the entire piece. And then I spray painted it white. And this is what it looked like after that. Now it's time to embellish it. We're going to take some of the Spanish moss from Dollar Tree. We're going to add it to the inside of the little picket fence here. Here I went moss crazy. This was way too much. So I removed some. And then I'm coming in with some of these carrots from Dollar Tree. And we are going to embellish them a little bit better. We're going to take off that sad looking stem. And we're going to come in with some pieces of boxwood instead. But first we are going to fix this little areas here. Sometimes the twine was trying to be unraveled. And so I'm adding some hot glue to that, making sure that it stays nicely secured. Then I'm using this piece of stem to open up that hole a little bit bigger to accommodate the new stem. So here I'm removing a piece of boxwood and I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue into that hole that I'm creating with that stem there. And then I'm going to push that into there. Here you see me, I was trying to make sure that it was fitting. It did. So now I'm coming in with my hot glue And I'm going to go ahead and put it right back in place, and this looks so much cuter, doesn't it? I repeated it with all 3 of my carrots, position them into my little picket fence here, and we got some beautiful overgrown carrots. Here I'm removing the fuzzies from my twine, and we're going to wrap it around that little picket fence about 3 times. Yes, 3 times. And then we're going to tie it in the middle and position a bow as well to embellish it. Once I was satisfied with my bow, I'm going to go ahead and glue it down so it stays in place. Look how cute that is. But we're not done. I'm not done yet. I'm going to take some of the carrots. I'm going to adhere them first. Once I'm happy with where they go, I'm just going to glue them down so they're not going anywhere. So once that is done, I'm going to take some flowers from Dollar Tree, the little yellow ones that I used previously. We are going to cut 2 pretty short down the stem, and we are going to glue each one on between each one of the carrots. And that completes this one. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's episode, here are a couple more videos you are sure to enjoy. Thank you so much for stopping by. You're amazing. Bye.